Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this podcast. I may be a woman, but I have the heart and the stomach of a king, Catherine the Great. Our guest today brings heart to Culture Matters, has the stomach to lead many kings and queens in and around the business space, being the chief operating officer, the linchpin of Culture Matters, working with founders, CEOs, executive teams, line level, everybody, a great leader of Culture Matters, inspiration behind 30 Days of Thought, the Culture Puzzle. Who's our guest today? The one and only Jenna Silverman, who is my wife. We live together. Jenna
That's
has a background in hospitality and interests in sociology and psychology. And I would say a Swiss Army knife when it comes to consulting and advisory. As Joan of Arc said, uh, I was born for this. Jenna was born to do what she does. And today, I'm excited to learn a bit more about where that comes from and share her with you all that are listening. And this may end up being the longest introduction, the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks for coming on the show, Jenna.
happy to be here.
There are a lot of people that have asked me what Culture Matters is, and some have shared with me they're not sure what I'm saying, and others' eyes have just glazed over and they have nodded politely and maybe not understood. Can you, and then others, when they've asked and we've been together, you and our presence have been excited and elated, and there's been a lot of acclaim around your answer of what it is. Can you tell the audience what Culture Matters is as you see it from a business standpoint? I guess we could start.
Yeah, I think by definition, Culture Matters is a business and culture advisory firm that first and foremost helps people. You are their coach, you are their advisor, you are there to see the things that they don't see. In essence, you help them think clearly. One of the biggest things that, I believe you do is study and learn, and you are a student of the game, and you'll never stop being a student of the game. And that's an advantage over a lot of people, because a lot of these CEOs and founders and business people don't have time to do that. They need help. They need help to think. They need help to see things clearly. They need help to see the blind spots that you really, really advocate for. The predictions that have saved companies and businesses, some millions of dollars just by you seeing things differently than they do, because you have different lanes open that they don't have open, because they're worried about retention. They're worried about sales. They're worried about building the building blocks of how to do a business. And you're kind of there from a very different frame, outside the box, as you would say, standing, looking over and seeing all of the moving parts and being able to strategize and pillar out and verticalize every single thing that they might be missing. And, I think culture has become such a buzzword. And I think a lot of people talk about wanting a culture and building a culture. And one of the things that you've taught me is that whether or not you like your culture or it's a good culture or it's a bad culture, you have it. And whether or not you decide to live it is up to the CEO or the founder. And I think you aligning those belief, purpose, goal, mission, vision, values is the biggest and best use of one of the pillars that you do with CEOs and founders, because a lot of people don't understand what that actually means, what that mantra actually is to live by, and what those values actually hold weight to. Because if they're not living it and they're not doing it, then their people won't follow them.
That was beautiful.
Thanks.
I am, were you, you know, when would you say you first were curious about people, psychology, even business?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a very strong family with a patriarch that didn't take no for an answer when it came to gathering and when it came to, really being together. Patriarch being my grandfather, on my mom's side. My grandfather on my dad's side was also extremely patriarchal as well. But I think my pop really gathered people and really, everybody wanted to see him, right? Everybody wanted to learn from him, listen to him. And that was important to our family. And so that was that instilled culture, I think, in me in an early age. I think in terms of psychology and just the way people interact with one another, I was always interested in solving problems. I was always a problem solver. I was always trying to put into action what we can solve. I don't like conflict, but I also am not scared of it. I'm interested in learning about what the problem is so that we can solve it. I always say, like, let's get to the root of the problem so that we're not just solving symptoms. And you also taught me a lot about this solving the symptom versus solving the root. And I think when I worked at a company, a few, almost 10 years ago now, I thought it was the best company in the entire world. And I was so happy to be a part of it. And then when I met you and learned about culture at its core, I started to see some of the red flags. And that really helped me understand what I needed to be looking for in real businesses. And I think that shifted my excitement from psychology of people to the business side of things as well.
On a tangible level, for our audience that might be looking for in they're entrepreneurs or they're employed by companies and they're looking for help in their businesses. Tactically, practically, what are uh, outcomes that you've seen from pursuing work in culture and business consulting? Outcomes, or if you could speak to like how it actually serves you without going, into very clear case studies, but
You mean with Culture Matters?
yeah, like I'm thinking like our listeners, whether it's with Culture Matters or there's a panoply of great options out there for consulting or coach, these terms get mixed and muddled and crossed and up, so what's a coach, what's a consultant, what's an advisor, who should help who should help
I
me.
think I think one of the biggest things from the CEO founder role is that they're really hard on themselves. I think you're really hard on yourself. And I think one of the things that you do extremely well among the architecture that you've created with culture and business and how they intertwine is like you see the best in people. You see people at their worst and pull the best out in them so that they can not be so hard on themselves. I also think there's strategy there that is involved with that conversation. And I think one of the best things that you've actually taught me is around shame, is around, you know, making people feel like their best self without sugarcoating it. And I think that that's a really strong art. And I think once those people, once those CEOs, once those founders, once those leaders get to that point, they become a different version of themselves. They become unstoppable. They start to see things a little bit more clearly. And I've seen that in a lot of our people that we work with. And I think it's really a beautiful thing because for you, it's like not about the credit. It's not about, you know, being told like, oh, Jay did this for me or Culture Matters did this for me. It's about the action, right? It's about the actual results. You know, you just said it this morning, like until I see tangible results, I don't want to go to the next level. And I think that that matters. I mean, that is a huge thing that I think a lot of people can get lost in the sauce. They can get lost in their, you know, spiraling excitement and never take action. And I think one of the biggest things that I've seen you do is say, okay, let's get an easel. Let's get a whiteboard. I don't care if it takes us all night. I don't care if we have to order steaks. I don't care if we have to order dinner. I don't care if we have to stay here until the sun comes up. We're going to figure this out and we're going to put this into action. And um, I've seen it keep companies and their leadership teams together. I've seen it, um, conflict than the normal conflict. I've seen businesses flourish on their values based on, you know, what you've delineated for them. I've seen, you know, brands be created based on culture instead of fakeness. So, you know, I've seen a lot of amazing things that has come from the work that you do with these people.
If Culture Matters were a body, what part do I play and what part do you play?
If culture matters, that's a crazy question. It's a good question. Um, Look, I think you would probably play the brain and the eyes. You know, you're the vision, right? Like you make it you make it real. You're the architect. You're the brain and the eyes and yeah, you're creating the renderings and I guess if I'm a couple body parts, I mean, um maybe maybe the hands and the heart. I mean, but I mean, I don't, you're the heart too. Like, I don't want to take that away from you. I think my job at Culture Matters is to bring your vision to life. And I don't know what body parts that is, right? I don't know if that's the brain or the heart or you're the heart and the brain and like, but what I know is that, you know, this partnership works when it works because we're both obsessed with the goal of, you know, helping businesses grow, building the tranches in the proper way, and you bringing me in when you see fit for that to happen. And until that happens, you're in the trenches, you're in the field, you're in the, you know, helping other people find their vision the way that you have created the vision here. I don't know if that answered the question. The body part thing is confusing to me. Sorry.
A great answer.
Okay, good.
I don't know if there, yeah, it's like a more of a exploratory, it's like probably a lot of metaphors that could be or ways to look at that.
Yeah, I don't want to
I think
answer
your
the
heart and
wrong.
stomach too. It wasn't intentional, but I think it really matched that quote in the beginning because I actually think you're the heart and the stomach and the hands and all of it. Uh, if there's like frequently asked questions, what do you get a lot in the field?
What do we do? What does Culture Matters do? Um, you know, I think what does Culture Matters do is the number one question. I think that you are such a vessel of clarity for people that they're in the moment with you, and their whole life can change in an instance. And um they find themselves at lunches or dinners with other people, and those people ask, so what does Jay and Culture Matters do? And it's hard for them to answer that. So me being kind of like the op side of things, the more systems oriented person, you know I always start with like, you bring clarity to people, which is funny, right? Because they're not clear on what you do, but they know that it creates clarity, which I think is so perfect for, who you are as a person, like, the paradox of life. And like, that's the best paradox, because that makes sense. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Are the Are there any other frequently asked questions that come up outside of that?
A lot of about you too. Like, what's Jay like at home? Does he ever turn it off? Like, is he constantly going a mile a minute? What's it like being married to Jay? What kind of thinker is he? Like, a lot of questions around you, because I think one of the best things that you do, and one of the things that you teach too, is like, Jordan Peterson, if people aren't listening to you, stop talking to them. And so you embody that. Like, you really listen well, you ask a lot of questions. And I think a lot of times some people don't get a chance to ask you about you, so they just want to know. And when that session is off, or when that session's not happening anymore, they're like, oh, this is his wife. Like, she lives with him. Like, tell me about this man behind this like crazy session we just had, or this breakthrough we just had, or, this dude just changed my life. Like, what's he like, when he's in his pajamas getting popcorn in the corners of the couches, kind of
Hmm.
thing. He doesn't eat popcorn anymore, but anyway.
Wow, that's fascinating. I eat it. Hmm. How about something clients would benefit from that maybe they'll never see because it happens behind the scenes? I guess what is it?
Hmm.
What is it taken?
So we have products at
Clients
Culture
to-
Matters, right? We have the culture map, we have the culture puzzle, we have the podcast, we have um, you know, a day with Jay, which creates a a whole analysis that, is given to the people. And I would just say that the day with Jay, from what I've understood, because it's a newer product, is intense, right? It's an intensive strategy session with you and your potential leadership team, and, not you, Jay, but you, the CEO leader, and their potential leadership team. And what comes after that is in a very intense planning session with Jay and his brain, right? Like, he sits down and he takes all of the notes and all of the builds and all of the creation that you, the CEO, would work with Jay with, and builds out the plan. And that plan is delivered. And then, based on the way that Jay thinks and the way that you think, Jay, is, in my opinion, is you're constantly creating that. I think one of the things that people misunderstand about Culture Matters is that, like, okay, this is like a leadership training, or it's consulting, and it's like, it's not, though. It's about the potential of the CEO. It's about the framework that, removes the mental clutter, so that people can think clearly again, and change, like, change their business for the better, change their personality for the better. You know, one specific client I can think of, every time we were with them, their company, they tell me, like, they've never listened better. They've never had better conversations within their marriage. They've never, and they give you the credit for that. Like they've told me like it would not have happened without Jay. And people just look at culture matters like, oh, it's consulting, it's culture, it's this, it's that. It's like, no, it's not. It's life. It's real and it's hard. And you have to qualify for it. You have to be ready for it. Because if you're not, then it's just frustrating for everybody.
You gave me a thought, your explanation. Vision, the clarity of vision or vision that there is one that can be spoken, has a relationship with what the strategy is and why. That takes thinking time. It takes dialogue. That
Yeah.
leads to talent. Right? That leads to talent. It's about talent. It's attracting talented people to work for and with an organization. Successful businesses are in a talent. You look at these strong, inspiring leaders, they're attracting talented people that otherwise could do things on their own or try to work for them and with them towards their vision and their mission. So those that are listening that desire to be in the talent game, the talent, the call to responsibility around talent, like we're in that's it starts with the vision, it starts with the strategy, and it, that's a philosophical and psychological process.
Yeah. I
It's,
would also add to that, it starts with the human. Like, I think a lot of consulting firms, I think a lot of people go in as a consulting firm because I've kind of read a lot about this based on how you've developed Culture Matters. There's a discovery, right? There's a discovery, and that discovery is based around the business. And I think your discovery is based around the person. Because before we can dive into the business, we need to make sure that the person is clear because that person is the leader and that person is we want to follow that person into a burning building because we know that we're going to come out and it's going to be perfect. And so, it's human first. It's like, we're not fixing the business until we learn what the person believes in. And if that person is qualified to work with our firm, because they might not be, and that's okay. And, maybe we've learned that the hard way in some
no,
ways.
this is where I disagree greatly, is that
Oh, okay.
everyone's qualified. The question is, how well are we listening or reflecting on every everyone is qualified to. However, Plato is teaching me you can't force someone to be a student.
Mm,
So I think we as people that you know if we dedicate our lives to reading and writing and
mm,
learning and have are bringing the intensity to want to solve and change and be helpful.
mm.
Plato is teaching me, not Plato like you play with Plato, but the philosopher Plato.
I know.
You
Yeah.
that we we don't, someone has to come to with the desire for wisdom.
Yeah. See, like, so that
But
delineation is such like a perfect breakdown of like CEO, COO, right? Like you're helping me now matriculate that whole thing. And like sometimes I need to slow down. And that's one of the things that you do for me. And it's such a profound way. Like, slow down, let's think about this. Let's build on this for a second. Like I disagree with that because that's not what our business is. And that's you being the leader. That's you being the CEO. That's you being the visionary and kind of helping me, you know, okay, yeah, got it. Check. And then, that helps me do what I need to do to make sure that your vision becomes more and more and more results driven.
I think that's an inspiring circle because one thing I've learned from you is watching you disagree with people in a constructive way.
Hmm.
But whereas I've observed in not only myself but others that Others who I may have resentment for oftentimes can reflect things or aspects of who I am or have been that I am not, haven't fully confronted or aren't aware of. That being said, I would, something I've observed in you that is uh, taught me is just what I just did, which is wait. I don't, this is some, I don't agree with that fully. How about this? I also would, so I want to acknowledge you for that. I also would add to that that my, my point is in, and this is something like it's a tough pill to swallow. It's been a tough pill to swallow. It's like my point is not the truth with a capital T. It's part of a conversation around what exactly is the way that we should look at this thing or approach approach this puzzle, this thought puzzle. Like, do what's the line of demarcation? I just anyway, just so I that could be something we put on a notepad of like, all right, that's a topic we should explore. Like, who's qualified and who isn't? What does that mean? The reason that was it's something important is I think there's a lot of responsibility that falls, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility that falls on professional services. And this is why. People in professional services in the consulting world are influence the doers of the world. And whether people that are listening to this know this or not, all of everyone that runs a business is getting their information from some institution, some vendor. Like it's every business has its influences, right? What communities are they a part of? What college did they go to or not? What alumni are they in or not? Endowment are they in or not? What coach business coaches do they have or not? What consulting partner have they had or have or not? And what who are their influences? Like right, we're surrounded by books in our home. That's not a coincidence. I'm trying to lean on those alive and deceased figures far superior to my uh likely ways far superior in many respects to my innate abilities to obviously the fact that these they've lit if they've been around, if the ideas have tested 2000 years and have been around for 2000 years, there's likely some value in there that could make us not only save us time because we don't have 2000 years to live, but get us to where we want to go, not get us on the wrong, like a map. We have a map, so we're all borrowing from ideas, so that there's a lot of responsibility in that. There's a lot of responsibility in that. And I guess maybe this is more of a reflection of core values, which is a conversation. And temperamentally, I get, I want to be careful of that thinking because being outside of the organization, we have a bird's eye view to, it's to what's going on. Like we're not the ones in the seat. We're there. We're there as a feedback loop for the seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I there, yeah. So the qualified or not qualified thing, and I don't, yeah, I don't. I'm not judging you. Like that's not. It's there's a
No,
that
I think it's
thinking
great. I
that
think it's
thinking
great.
is dark because it's
Mm.
very. I think the philosophical concept. It's easy to say to like write off, but like what exactly did we learn or not learn? I don't know.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know,
that's
quite literally.
special
That's
too.
why I don't know. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I
I
think that that's special too because
don't
it
know.
shows that you really work to see the best in everybody.
At the same time, some people will kill you.
Mm. Hmm.
So there's that,
Yeah,
right? How are there, where are the lines of demarcation? But I guess maybe hopefully the audience gets something from that. Having a conversation around the important ideas is, it takes trust, and it takes effort. And that's part of what our attempt is if we're going to work with a culture that's, let's say, whether it's thriving and looking to attract talent at the highest level possible, or it's really struggling and in
Mm.
disarray. I'm very proud that we've been involved in both scenarios, and I think have great experiences and failures to draw from in both. Not right. A
Sure.
culture, a struggling culture. You said something I really liked that I think was helpful, is I think you really have a point there. Maybe it's more, those that are interested in looking at the human aspect and the business, not just the business. I love that, because I do think that can, for those that are interested in that, that can be a very valuable way to start, or to look at their business, and to look at the value and the valuation and the potential of the business. I do think that is a strength of, well, ultimately that is the foundation of Culture Matters, is to look at
Yeah.
people and systems, not just systems or just people, but both, and in what order. I have another question about uh, what would you say hospitality, are there
Mm.
things today that in the industry of hospitality that you that have influenced you to be the best, most capable of what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah. I mean, hospitality is just like receiving guests, right? Like I don't even know what the real definition of hospitality is. But in my mind, it's making people feel like they have value. It's making people feel comfortable. Some restaurants or hotel groups would even go as far to say is, making people feel right, like correct. There's that old adage of like the customer is always right. That's a big that's a big adage in hospitality, because when you're serving somebody, whether it's a hamburger or whether it's at the Ritz-Carlton or whether it's at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, it's always about the customer getting served correctly. And what is correct? Correct is based on their, it's subjective, but it's based on what they want. And if we don't deliver what they want, then you run the risk of getting a bad review, or you get a zero tip, or you get a complaint to your boss and then your boss fires you. So that's kind of like the notion of hospitality. I think taking those values from hospitality and applying that to professional services and or just like working with people and just serving people in just a different way, right? It's not a 45-minute experience or a 2-day experience at a hotel. It's, a longer relationship, and it becomes friendships, it becomes an extension of family in some ways. And that's a different line, right? You've helped me a lot with that, just like you helped me on this recording today, like the qualifier comment. That I'm going to think about that now for a while, because it's true. Everybody should be qualified, just like everybody's qualified to walk into a restaurant, everybody's qualified to walk into a hotel. But figuring out what that line of demarcation is clear too.
That's why I was thinking, maybe this is me pacifying myself. At some level, I think it is, but I think I have a trigger to that because of my own struggle with abandonment. Like
Mm,
where I'm overemphasizing, almost overly emphasizing the potential for malevolence around qualified or not. So I don't want to miss the forest for the trees here, is there's also a degree of value for protection and boundaries. And hey, like Peterson taught me, and I didn't take this advice at all. You gave me credit. Like I didn't get it till I had to suffer. So, almost like, well, when someone isn't talking to you, stop. Or yeah, if someone isn't listening to you, stop talking. What isn't said in that quote is uh, start asking or ask more questions.
Mm,
And the reason, because yeah, it takes two to tango. It just it's not an either or here. It's like a McGilchrist sense. It's both an either or and a both and it that still confuses me. I gotta rewatch his episode that he came on the Culture Matters podcast. Um,
yeah, I think just to put a bow on the hospitality piece, though, it's like serving your clients at the best of your ability, right? Serving your clients how they want to be served, um, and asking the right questions about that and figuring out, you know, if and when we're over serving or if we're not asking enough questions or we're assuming what they need versus learning what they need. You know, one of the things you did recently, Jay, is you kind of changed up a little bit of the vision, mission, and values of Culture Matters. And like the values that I'm reading them because I don't have them memorized. So just want to be honest here with the people. But preparation, urgency, curiosity, consistency, focus, and education. I mean, I think about all of those six values that you've laid out for Culture Matters based on what you're saying on this show right now. And it's like, yeah, everybody's qualified, but how urgent are we to figure out, you know, what that means, right? Or, how prepared were we in our work before we had that discovery call with that person? Or, how consistent are they in their business that makes them make sense for us? How curious are they? How many questions have they asked you based on what the work we do, and how have they answered the questions that you're curious about? How focused are they? Do they have 75 different businesses, or do they have one and they're focused on making that the best thing? What is their education? And that doesn't mean like their degrees. It just means how interested are they in learning? Do they think they know everything, or are they interested in learning? Um, because certainly more than I would say most people because of how much you've learned, and you've never stopped learning and never want to stop. So, it's cool to think about the fact that like what you do for businesses is you help them delineate their values. And here I am as a product of that based on what you do with businesses in our business. And I'm breaking down all of our values just based on, this quick little lesson you've given me about qualifying.
what did you say about the preparation? What was that question?
What preparation are we doing prior to the discovery call, and what preparation have they done on Culture Matters to know that this works?
What was it's preparation, curiosity is
Urgency,
urgency, curiosity, consistency, focus, because
education.
and education. It's funny. I was thinking about this morning. It was this morning. We didn't talk about it. I was like,
Wow.
do I know all the values? Because if you stop saying something out loud, it can go. John Cook, who's been on the podcast, taught me about how there's like little things in our brain that basically wither. They get if you don't say it a lot. So it's preparation, urgency, curiosity, consistency, focus, and education. Is that what it is?
Yep.
So you said what preparation have we done and what preparation have they done?
Yeah.
That was the first one. This is really good. I want to write this down. Them, us, or us, them. What was the question around urgency?
How urgent are we in making the decision that this works or it doesn't? And if it doesn't, or if it does, how urgent are we again in making sure that we made the right choice, right? Like, are we letting these people linger if they're not right? And if that's happening, how does that affect our business? How does it affect their business? Like, again, to the listening quote, if the people that you're talking to aren't listening to you, stop talking to them.
Uh, what was your Curiosity.
Are they asking questions about our business? Are we asking questions about their business? Um, how curious are they in what we do and how we do it versus potential cloud or, you know, just zero questions around anything and not, the curiosity is huge.
Preparation, urgency, curiosity, consistency. Yes, consistency. What are we looking for
Yeah,
as it
how are they
relates to
showing up for their
consistency?
people? How are they um, are they late? Are they canceling meetings? Um, do they have a good relationship with their family? How consistent are they with it? If they say they're a man or woman of God, how often are they going to church? How are they spreading the gospel? Like how, if they are saying that they're going to do something, how often do they do what they say they're going to do?
Focus.
Focus is so big. I mean, you have drilled this into my brain, so I give you all the credit for this, but you know, the focus is wild to me because if you don't focus on your business, you're fucked. I mean, truly, like I don't sorry if cursing is not okay, but like you're fucked. You're just fucked. Like if you have 100 different directions to go in and you're trying to make all of them be the banger business or the banger success, it's never going to happen. Focus is huge. I mean, we cannot work with people who aren't focused. Period. It will ruin your thesis
Why?
because they have to be the CEO of their life and their business in order to work with Culture Matters, and they have to be focused on what that looks like and what their goals are. And if they have 75 different goals, that's fine. We can build on that. Jay has an amazing um structure and strategy on how to build on that to kind of make that funnel into what the most important thing is. But if they're not open to narrowing that down to the most important thing, then they're going to lack focus on getting to that goal. And that's not something that's going to yield results.
And education.
You can't you can't be a know-it-all. You have to be a student of the game. You got to learn. There's there's so many things that you've brought to my attention that I've learned in school, or I've learned from my parents, or I've learned from my sister, or I've learned from my family, or I've learned from my friends or other business owners. But one thing that you've taught me the most is that this shit is not new. It was created a long time ago by the old philosophers and the old geniuses that, did nothing but write or read or speak all day long. And, you know, I think about the quote, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like everybody thinks that that came from Viktor Frankl or that came from, other authors who have written it in other books or, some new generational people would say it came from a movie like, A Few Good Men or something because they heard Tom Cruise say it or something, but it really came from like, old philosophers or old thinkers, right? And that's something that if you can't be a know-it-all. You have to learn. You have to keep studying.
Hmm.
You just education is everything. Just your education around the money market has been so wild for me to watch over the last year and a half. You knew nothing about it, and then you just studied and you read and you know, became aggressively focused on Berkshire Hathaway and, you know, just different things, different trends of stocks going up and down and what that means for, the market and watching those, I should have done this and I should have bought this and I should have done this and we would have been, cajillionaires if we did this and like um I don't know anything about it. I know a little bit about it, but I know mostly because of what you've taught me. And that's just because you hunkered down and said, I need to learn this. I need to learn this to be a better business person. I need to learn this to be a better business advisor. If you're not aligned in education as a CEO, you're going to hit a cap and you're never going to hit the highest of your potential.
What a great, I think, live, unplanned elucidation on how you are the heart and stomach and truly an the operating consciousness, because this is all of this is very useful. We just came, my mind came up, improved the process of our own ability, awareness and awareness and attention, and in turn intention around potentially serving current and future customers at a higher level. So I want to go back to the metaphor of the if yeah the I'll take the brains and eyes. They actually say, I'm going, just follow me for a second, that there's some apparently most of our brain is in our gut. I fact check me, whoever you are. If I'm wrong, don't tell me. I'm just kidding.
Perfect.
It's funny. Yeah, I could be every once in a while funny. Um,
Yeah.
the brain and the eyes. Okay, what I'm trying to make that joke is that it's not like someone that is in the brain and the eyes is not brainy. Obviously, anybody listening, they'd be like, "Wow, Jen is really smart."
Hmm.
So let's not let the metaphor confuse us here. But the brain and the eyes, and you said, a lot of parts, the hands. I think it goes back to that quote, which was, it just spoke to me. I didn't, it just, I was like, the other quote, Catherine the Great, it didn't speak to me. I always pick the quote based on what speaks to me and about the heart and the stomach. I think you're the heart and the stomach. And I think this exercise of curiosity and exploration shows that, because for the listeners that we just un in organically thought through the core values of Culture Matters today, and how, right, what they are. There's a why behind them. You have all these brilliant ideas of how they can be leveraged to create value for customers and in turn the company. And this is a beautiful elucidation on why started Culture Matters, because me just writing down the values doesn't make them the truth with a capital T. Me as in the founder,
Hmm.
valuable,
Yeah.
able to curate value. It's the conversations that manifest with the people
Mm.
from the word
Mm.
that bring people closer together. You're talking about he who has a why can bear almost anyhow. Friedrich Nietzsche said that, right? Influenced by Schopenhauer, influenced by Plato, and influenced. It goes on and on. Upanishads
To my point about education.
and you can. And I'm thinking while you're saying, I'm like, man, I know a couple levels deep, but I am so excited to learn who influenced Plato, and then who. I think it was Thales. Not. I'll digress because I'm still learning. Uh, and then who influenced that guy and who influenced that person,
Mm.
woman, or whatever. So anyway, what a great, I want the listeners to really pay attention to this piece is that this is very useful, what you just, what we just went through there. Um, why? How I'm looking, I would like your opinion. I would like to share in short, in brief, why? So that we can listen better and give better feedback.
Mm.
If we know what we're looking, I was just oh, yeah, I said briefly. So that's my, if
Mm.
we know what to, we're a better listener, we can get a feedback. What do you think?
Um, well, I think just going back to what you've built at Culture Matters in terms of like the newer and improved like mission, to change the way business views culture. That's the mission of Culture Matters, right? To change the way business views culture. And I think it's so important that that is that new articulated mission because you can't have a good, solid foundational culture in your business without core values, without a belief in something, or a belief in a person. And that's what you're doing for businesses. You're changing the way businesses view culture by being their business and culture advisor. And so that comes with breaking down your values. One of the things that you taught me very early on in our relationship, before we even started, dating, really, I don't know. The timeline is interesting, but, you know, you said values can be written down and put on the wall, but like they need to have you need to have a sentence or two behind each value, or else why is it a value? If it's just a cool word or if it's just a cool statement piece, that's great. But why is it important to you? That's what a real value is. And so that stuck with me. And so now every time I look at values of businesses, I always try to think about the why behind them because um, you want to resonate with the values, and especially a company that I'm the COO of. I want to understand that why these values make sense. And I've taken everything that you've basically taught me about what we do and what professional services really is and how serious and how beautifully your beautiful mind kind of conceptualizes things, which does take some people a little bit more time to understand, but like take the time. It's okay. It's okay that you don't get it at first because when you do, it's going to change your life.
I want to thank you, and I want to say something. I've been really working on this in brief because it is a puzzle I've been trying to solve, and I don't have the answers. It's like an intuition. As society's values change, that is putting more pressure on businesses to compensate. So if companies want to attract talent, there's a heavier responsibility on them
Mm,
to give them meaning that maybe 50 years ago was just a part of life.
mm,
So people that say, what's the value of culture? Why does it matter in business? The reason it matters in business is because in society, it's mattering more and more, and that's putting a lot of pressure on businesses to hire young. All I hear every day is from anyone that's generation, and I said brief, beyond generation millennial is there's a contempt, there's a mistrust, there's a lack of understanding. It's like these young, there's nothing positive that comes out of their mouth about the youth coming up into work. Why? They're observing a different value set.
mm,
So business understanding values, more pressure is on business than ever when it comes to talent and productivity. So that's why this is so important. It's a likely a universal conversation. business conversation, but for sure in the West.
Agree.
I have a question. Uh when do you one more, I'm sorry, there's one more thing. Because even the thought leaders of our society right now aren't quite in business. I don't I'm not reading books. I'm getting a lot of books at the house. I'm not getting a lot that are focused on this topic in this way. It's starting to happen. The thought leaders aren't even expanding on this topic practically. It's very philosophical still. I think that creates a huge edge for our business. There are so like we're helping the customers we have. They have a huge edge right now, huge edge because we're about a generation ahead. I started 10 years ago. I was ahead. We're still ahead. And it's going to become more valuable with AI integrating into our into human nature, I believe. Even if it's just people using AI, that's still an integration. Even if it's not in our body, it's a part of our frontal cortex, just like a phone is.
Mm,
So it's going to become more important, the culture conversation, more valuable, create more profit and purpose, and productivity for businesses. And I think it's important I say that to crack the code. And it's a process of discovery because it isn't boilerplate. That will not work. It will not work. A core value exercise is not the point. It's the process
mm,
of attention and intention around the topic
mm,
because more weight is falling on business to figure out how to inspire and equip the workforce with what they need, the tools they need to thrive in their careers. So anyway, I'll digress. That's another day, I guess, but we'll do it. When do you feel that we work together? Like we're operating at our best. I want the audiences to understand a little bit about how we complement one another we work with businesses with a couple employees to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, and just a lot of experience in the private markets, right? Nine-figure businesses plus eight-figure, seven influenced, thousands of employees cumulatively, and that's tens of multiple thousands of families. I've learned from one of my mentors. Every employee impacts four people. So from that standpoint, where do you feel like we're operating at our best together? When do you feel like we're operating at our best?
Um, well, I think there's two answers to that question. I think one is like in the boiler room, right? Like in the trenches. I think when you decide that it's important for me to kind of be a part of the discussion, which sometimes is never, and sometimes, and sometimes is one time. I think, when you are so deeply entrenched with the work of the client, sometimes it's nice to have kind of an outside view of certain things to kind of ask those questions that will dig deeper from the perspective of the client that you can hear. We just did this last week, and I feel like that was a really great uh in the trenches dual discovery process for certain things that you were trying to uncover, that maybe you just needed some extra questions there because you're in it thickly and can have me there as that. I think we work really great in those scenarios. I think another one is kind of the quiet moments. Sometimes we're human too, and sometimes we need to work together to hype each other up, or sometimes you got to smack me out of it. Not literally, he doesn't smack me, but like sometimes you got to shake me out of it, and help me see things differently. Or if I'm stuck on a symptom versus the actual root of the problem, you really help me grow through that. And I hope that I am that for you in some cases too, where not really help you grow through things, but just if you need to talk through it, and just about our business in general, like just about how we want to grow certain things and how we want to build certain things. I think we're really great in those moments when we sit down and have our meetings and have our conversations. It doesn't happen as often as I know you'd like, and that's probably my fault, so I can publicly take responsibility for that. But I think those are the two really strong moments. And I also just think when we're um networking, right? Like one of your talents and one of your lights, and I think a gift that you have is bringing people together. Which is so funny because that kind of circles all the way back to the hospitality thing, right? Hospitality is gathering people, right? It's serving people at the highest level. And you do that innately. And I love watching that. And I also love kind of being on your arm for that. Kind of wherever you need me. You know, we do these Culture Matters collaborative events, which, you know, I think we're going to ramp up in 2026, which I'm really excited about because one of the services that we do for specialty clients is events. And that's something that we're going to do really big for Culture Matters this year. And I'm really excited about that. Um, so yeah, I think we work really, really well together in the trenches on a, you know, discovery process. I think together at home when we have to have those real conversations that, you know, could start with a lot of emotion and end with a lot of plan and action, which is great. Because that's what we should do as partners in life and you know, as an employee of yours in your C-suite. And then also um networking.
What's people I think can recognize your competence from this conversation, but what's a strength that you use on a daily basis, maybe that isn't recognized?
Daily basis.
It wouldn't be noticed.
That wouldn't be noticed. Wow. Um,
Or most wouldn't see it.
I mean, we work remote a lot of the time, so I think that's, I mean, I don't really have an off button. Um, you know, I might need to run an errand for 20 minutes or shove something down my throat so that I can live. Sometimes I forget to drink water. I've been drinking water on this because it's sitting right here, so that's good. So I just think the nonstop, like the stick to itiveness, I don't know how to answer this question. It's hard for me to answer it about myself. But yeah, I think, you know, I don't like to stop until the job is done. I don't like to, um, you know, sometimes I'll be on my computer until 10, 11 at night. Sometimes I'll go to bed at 7 o'clock. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. Sorry.
What are you willing? I thought it was a great answer.
Oh, okay, good.
How about unwilling to compromise on work or in life?
Unwilling to compromise on work or in life. Non-negotiable, right? That's like what that is, unwilling to compromise.
Yeah.
Um, I, I think, you know, it's such a broad answer that comes to my head right now, but truth is tough to compromise on, you know? Being told one thing and then being told another thing and kind of uh, uh um my mom and dad went to this event, an EOS event. And they told me a long time ago when I was a kid, because I wasn't always I was a little bit of a fight when I was younger, and I still am, you know, I have a lot of fire under me when I believe in something. But thwarted intention, undelivered communication, and unfulfilled expectations are the three things that people get upset about. in life. And so when communication is not delivered properly, it is a non-negotiable for me. It's really hard for me to get the job done. My goal is to get to the root of the problem and or finish the project. Like we're project managers a lot of the time in this business, like professional services, we manage projects. And so if I don't have correct delivered communication, that could really mess up a project. And that is non-negotiable for me. I need direct communication, clear direction.
Hmm. What are you most proud of that we've built together and created?
What am I most proud of that we built? Um, our home. Um, you know, Jay, you're the brains and the vision behind Culture Matters. And that is something that I love to be on this walk with you on, and learn from you on. And I love that we can continue to build products and take your vision to the next level as much as we possibly can. So that's always, in the abstract, that's always wonderful to like kind of look back on and see the progress of that. But I think together, our home, our library that I fight you on most days, our love for design and build, to make our home interesting and cool. And I'm really proud of that. I think we've now built almost two homes together. One, purchased this one that we're in now, together. But I love that we have that and it's both of ours, and both of our personalities are very inside of it. That's probably it.
Did we my own insecurity pops up now. Did do you does the audience understand us better and the business? Because when I hear that people get value from me in their life, and I was going to say you in their life, but I think you're understood better than me. So, but maybe that's something we could discuss too. When I hear that people feel very positive but are unable to clarify, I'd like to reconcile that. I I so maybe that's something we can explore in another episode.
Yeah.
How do you think this episode went?
I think it's cool. I love talking about what you built in a business and how I can help make it uh not make it anything, how I can help you deliver that. I think that this business is constantly evolving. Um, I think that the future of Culture Matters is super bright. Um, yeah, I think this episode is cool. And I think if we can continue to spread what we do and how we do it and how we work together and how we don't work together, because a lot of the times we're not working together in certain aspects of this business because that it requires you to be there and my time needs to be protected by you so that we can build this brand as well. Um, you know, I think this episode is cool.
Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Thanks.
And I'm excited. If the listeners, I would challenge them, this is to listen to the New Year's Eve Lollapalooza 2024, episodes 768 to episodes 782. All of those episodes, listen to them after this. New Year's
Mm.
Eve 2024, episodes 768 to 782, because I believe it will be most likely episode 1046 or 7 when we start. They'll listen to New Year's Eve Lollapalooza 2025, which you're participating in this year.
Hmm.
Only people that have been on the Culture Matters before, podcast before, have the opportunity to, are qualified to participate,
Yes,
have
the
the opportunity to
qualified.
participate in the New Year's Eve Lollapalooza.
Yep.
So we're recording prior to that so that you can participate in the New Year's Eve 2025 Lollapalooza. So I'm challenging listeners to go to episode 768 to episode 782. Listen to all those episodes. It'll change your life. Has the capacity to change your life. And then go to episode 1000. It'll be 46 or 47, probably. 1046 or 47, all the way to 67 or 66 or something like that. And here's a quote that symbolizes, I think, this conversation today that I was thinking about. And if you're listening, what could happen to you when you listen to those podcasts on the Culture Matters podcast? It'd be like 35 of them, probably. The meaning of two personalities is like the mixing of two chemical, is like the contact of two chemical stuff. The meeting of two personalities, like the contact of two chemical substances. If there's any reaction, both are transformed.
Hmm.
That's a quote today. Carl Jung. Jenna Silverman, thank you for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. Remember, you need a heart and a stomach.
One more thing, I just want to say I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah, that's all.
That was a good reminder of the heart and the stomach. Um, please share this, and please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast so we can continue growing the platform. And we will see you next time.